After Sweden there was quite a bit of repair work to be done to the bike, well to both bikes to be honest, so Phil and Chris did a great job. They've managed to get down from Sweden all the way through Germany to Oschersleben in a couple of days, so they got there roughly the day before I arrived. On the Wednesday I brought took the exhaust back to the UK with me and got that repaired and welded. I managed to pick up a screen from Steve Patrickson.
Don't start because Mike wouldn't fill the documents in properly. Yeah, I'm trying to think what it is.
Is he on the side or already?
It's Italian, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one.
Homemade.
That's his. That Lazzarini.
Bloody nice, isn't it?
Fucking.
Have the stand, please.
Shut up.
What do you think, Phil?
Phil and Mick, they look like two winos. Well, they are two winos. Two ex-racers anyway, sharing a glass of wine between them.
It's grounded in there. Don't go fast around the corners.
Here's the solution.
A couple of modifications the scrutineers pointed out to us. The new fairing which we'd taken from the 426 to put on the 450 hadn't got a hole in the bottom of it to allow water to run out of it should it need to in rain. So we had to get that drilled and then take the bikes back up and re-scrutineer them.
Okay.
Just fire them up and ride back to there. Yeah, I'll leave them there, I'll carry them. The garage with bumped into David Marillion and Igor and Log. They all come running out to say hi.
Where's the starter then?
The other end.
Oh, you're so easy.
On the Thursday, which was going to be very busy because there was not only the untimed practice but both qualifying sessions as well. There wasn't going to be a lot of time, so we had to get all our preparations done on the Wednesday night. However, as soon as the time session started, I noticed the misfire was just as bad as it ever was. Very disappointing. Thankfully, we took the 426 up on tyre warmers into the pit lane and had it running, so that was ready to go, so we could get a qualifying position. Just like in Sweden, the weather was a bit threatening, so it was quite important to get a good time in the first session, which was dry. Session over, managed to check up on the lap timer and we'd actually got second quickest, so I was quite comforted with that. Now it was the time to try and figure out once again what was wrong with the 450. We decided with only one session left to put all our eggs in one basket and just use this session purely for testing the 450, going through as many components as possible. So we strapped to the bike both of the ignition units off both bikes so we could do a quick swap over, and took off every single possible electrical component which wasn't necessary. Even the kill switch, everything came off. I was putting the 426 tank back on, I inadvertently dropped a small R-clip into the rear mounting of the tank through a little imperceivably small slot and couldn't get it out, so Phil and I spent about 15 minutes fiddling and faffing trying to get it out. Managed in the end. Close-up of Mick James's bike shows it how it's a beautifully turned out piece of kit. He really does love that thing. Anyway, on to the second qualifying session. This is quite late in the evening, it's about 7 o'clock at night now. As I said, we put all our eggs in one basket and all the electrical components possible were taken off. Kill switch, there was the absolute bare minimum, any interference or any other wiring we'd hopefully got rid of. Out onto the track to make sure that, or to just experiment whether we got rid of it or not. In and out a few times, changing over the ignition from the 46 ignition, swapping the wires over to put the 451 back on and vice versa, and try the various programs, the switchable programs that the Vortex ignition has, and none of it really seemed to work, and the misfire if anything just got worse and worse and worse as the session progressed. Finally, whilst the bike was misfiring, in one lap I decided to just get back into the pits as quick as possible, and rolling down the pit lane, blipping the engine on the throttle, the conrod broke.
That's terribly unfair. I want to pour petrol over in the separator.
There's a little bit of water in the bottom of the
I think it's pull the pin out of the bushing, out the conrod.
This speaks a man who's done it before.
Split up the front of the barrel. I think it's either, yeah, there's something missing out of it anyway. You see it just in front of the, oh yeah.
Chris, as ever, was the guy who was given the job of determining cause of death, and ventured a plausible solution. Mine was a gallon of petrol and a box of Swan Vestas.
On the grid or something.
It's good.
You got a little torch. Endoscope is what you need.
Endoscope. Well, a piston. Put it in gear.
It goes over.
Yeah, but not with the piston, unfortunately.
The piston stays where it is.
You could safely say this now was an X engine.
Thank you and good night.
Slightly worse. Mine was slightly worse, certainly no better. You come in, you change it back over again, and straight away it was absolutely crap. Really, going at the back shift, holding full throttle. It's only terrible going at the pit lane. Within 4 gear down the back shift, cruised in, and what I didn't run just as you appear into view, you come off the circuit and appear into view there. I opened it up, it's so clear. And then and I clutched it, and it didn't sound like it.
As we hadn't got a spare motor for the 450, we then had to use the 426. There wasn't an option. And then with about 45 minutes, an hour to go before the race, the heavens absolutely open. I thought my luck was in. The 46 is fantastic to ride in the rain, and its slight power disadvantage is masked by the rain.
Can you handle that? Keep the light. Got a helmet on.
Everybody chose wets, and it was fairly obvious that it was going to be a wet start. However, it did stop raining, and very quickly the sun started to dry, but it was whether it was going to be dry enough to start the race on slicks. It was easier and safer just to plumb that everyone was on wets, so it was safer to start on wets than gamble it was how fast it was going to dry out. There was quite a delay waiting to get out onto the track because the race before us there was an incident in that, so that tended to drag on, and in the meantime the track was drying up all the time. It was still a debate as to which tyres to go out, but the organisers said that after the sighting lap there wasn't going to be any time to stop the engines and do any work in either the pit lane or on the start line, so it was a case of from the pit lane, sighting lap, then warm up lap and then go. So the decision had to be made really before the start of the sighting lap on which tyres to run. As it turned out, things went really well. I managed to come in second behind Walter Battini on the Woods TM machine. A new bike to everybody really, a new rider to the championship. However, he wasn't registered in the championship, so he didn't score the points, or any points, so I managed to finish second and got maximum points. A tremendous relief for the whole team. Unfortunately for Mark Laws, who was leading the championship, he crashed on the second lap. Closed the gap right down now, so for Assen, which is the last round in about 6 weeks' time, I still need to win, and Mark needs to get at least 5th to win the championship. It's all going to be close.
Thank you.
Platz Nummer 2 geht an die Startnummer 2. Aus Großbritannien ist der Yamaha Tigra Mike Effort. Ja, und der Sieger, für den war das natürlich was. Der ehemalige Motocross-Rennpilot, der aktuelle Supermoto-Rennpilot und jetzt auf der Straße unterwegs. Aus Italien, auf der TM Donatini, Walter Bartolini.
Walter's World Supermoto champion rider, so nobody really knew that much about him. Clearly he was very good and won the race comfortably. Always nice to get up on the podium wherever you are. In Oschersleben it's above the pit lane, so the full grandstand in front of you can see, and most of the people out the pit lane, the World Endurance people, come out to a bit of clap and applaud. Over many years of racing World Endurance bikes, I've generated quite a few friends and they came up to say hello.